Hakadosh, Erev Tov, Masechet Ketubot Daf Zayin Amud Aleph 37a1 says the Gemara. The Savar Rabbi Yehuda, if you remember, we were talking about this. The Savar Rabbi Yehuda Kedushata Kaima. Does Rabbi Yehuda actually hold that a shvuya is still in the same kedusha, which means that she did not have relations with the captors, which ones that took her into captivity, and therefore she's still like bechiska betula? Tanya, we learned in the Braita, imagine right now that you have a gioret. That means she was a goya, she converted, and then she saw dam nida one day after she converted. Rabbi Yehuda says dayashata. What does it mean dayashata? Dayashata means that you go back, right? That means she's only becoming tamea from now onwards. You don't go backwards. So dayashata means from now onwards she becomes tamea to do with all the things of tuma v'tara. You remember about touching holy foods, not holy foods, truma, this, that. Rabbi Yosef argues and he says, no, she's like any other woman. And therefore she's going to be mitamea me'et which means like this. Me'et means 24 hours. So you go 24 hours backwards, right? Mipkida means from the last time she checked until the last time she checked. So which means sometimes the me'et is longer than the pkida and sometimes the pkida is longer. So for example, let's say she checked, right, this morning. Okay, so now if you go 24 hours backwards, it's last night at 7:45. If you go from this morning, which is pkida, so it's only going to be from this morning and onwards that she's going to become tmeah, not from last night. So if she touched something of tumah v'tara, right, like say of pure foods last night at 11 o'clock at night, it would be pure if you hold pkida. If you hold me'et le'et, no, because you're going back 24 hours. Now, so therefore, usually what we always say is that we do the 24 hours or pkida, whichever one is shorter, whichever one is the last one. Utsricha, and we need it. What does it mean? Utsricha, she needs lamtin shosha chodashim, which means from the time that she converts until she's going to get married, she has to wait 3 months to make sure that she's not pregnant. Right? Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef matil le'ares v'nesem yad. Rabbi Yosef comes and right, exactly, to make sure that she's not pregnant. Rabbi Yosef comes and he says, no, she's allowed to get married immediately. Okay, so therefore, from the fact that Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says that she has to wait 3 months for a gioret, we see from here that a gioret is a cheskat beula. That means when she was a goya, she was like a chazakah, that she already had relations. So therefore, also the same thing with a shvuya. So says the Gemara, Elmaleh, Rabbi Yosef says to Rav Papa Shmuel, Gioret shvuya karamit? Are you asking a question from gioret to shvuya? What are you asking? There are two different dinim. Why? He says gioret no minatan nasha. A gioret, before she converts, she's not watching over herself. She doesn't care if she's a betula, not a betula, or what's going on. Shvuya minatan nasha. Shvuya, she's always watching over herself. She was taken into captivity. She was not, you understand? So she's going to make sure that she wants to stay pure. So says the Gemara, verami shvuya shvuya. But 1 second, you could still ask a question from shvuya to shvuya. The Tanya is learned in the Braita, hagioret v'shvuya v'shivcha. When you have a gioret, right, a girl that converted, or a shvuya, a woman that was taken into captivity, or a shivcha, or a maidservant, and that they were redeemed, converted, or free, liberated. If it's going to be after 3 years or 1 day, they always have to wait 3 months. Why do you always have to say they have to wait 3 months according to Rabbi Yehuda? Obviously to make sure that she's not pregnant. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef matir liares. Rabbi Yosef comes and he says, no, they're permitted to get married immediately. So therefore you see from here, if Rabbi Yehuda says that they have to wait 3 months, and here it's talking about shvuya, so therefore that's a contradiction. You told me 2 minutes ago that a shvuya doesn't have to wait anything, right? She doesn't have to wait, right? So he comes and he says, ishtik, he kept quiet. Elmaleh, he comes and he says, but did you hear anything about this contradiction? At the end of the day, it sounds like a good contradiction. So what's going on then? Elmaleh, he says, no. This is what Rav Sheshat says. Yeah, the what? He comes and he says, if you saw that she was violated by the captors, then she needs 3 months. But if you didn't see that she was violated from the captors, so then she does not need the 3 months, because then you're going to say that it's going to be okay. So ask the Gemara, so if you're going to tell me that we saw that she was violated, what's reasoning of Rabbi Yosef? Rabbi Yosef says that the second that she's redeemed, she could get married immediately. Maybe she's pregnant from the captors. What's the reasoning of Rabbi Yosef that says that you didn't, you saw it? So Amar Rabba says, Kasava Rabbi Yosef holds, Isha mezana meshameshet bamoch shelo titaber. If a woman is already having immoral relations, you know what she's going to do? she's going to make sure that she doesn't become pregnant. So she's going to be mishameshet b'moch. She's going to use a moch. What does that mean? She's going to put something down there, right? Nowadays, they have all the different types, IUDs, spermicides, this, that, you understand? So she's going to do something in order, right? There's many different forms, right? Exactly, there's many different forms in order not to become pregnant. So therefore, it comes out that according to Rabbi Yosef, he says there's no chashash that she's going to become pregnant. Okay? Fine. So says the Gemara, Bishlema, Bishlema Gioret. It's good the Gioret. Kevan de Tata le Giyure Menatra Nafsha. He says, why? Why is it good on the case that we spoke about the Gioret, that she has to wait 3 months? Kevan de Tata le Giyure Menatra Nafsha. According to Rabbi Yosef, he says, 1 second. The Rabbi Yosef, remember, says that she never has to wait for 3 months. Immediately she converts, she gets married. Why? He says, 1 second, she wants to convert. So since this girl wants to convert, she's going to make sure that she's clean. She's going to make sure that she's not going to start fooling around. Shvuya nami, also the shvuya, the lo yada hechamamtula. He says she doesn't know where they're going to take her. So therefore, she's going to say, maybe they're going to take her to the Jews, and then she's going to be redeemed. So she's going to be redeemed, right? What's going to happen? So she's not going to come and start having relations. Shivcha nami, also the shivcha, he comes and he says like this, the shivcha, also, what happens with the shivcha? He says the shama mipi mara. What does that mean? It says over here that the months before, she already hears from her master that she's going to be free. So therefore, she already starts preparing herself, and therefore she's not going to become pregnant. Meaning in all these cases, it makes sense because she's basically watching over to make sure that she's not going to become pregnant. Therefore, Rabbi Yosef says she doesn't have to wait the 3 things. What about Yotze b'Shemayim? Meaning if somebody comes and he punches his maidservant and he takes out their eye or their tooth, so she's Yotzet. What is Yotzet? She goes up free. Why? Yotzet b'Shen b'Ayin. That's halacha. So the question is, in such a case where she goes up free immediately, what is he going to say? That she doesn't have to come and she doesn't have to wait 3 months? She didn't know she was going to become free. She didn't know that he went and all of a sudden he lost it and he took out her eye or he took out her tooth. Yeah? So says the Gemara, "V'chitema kol mimela." Yeah, lo amar Rabbi Yosef. Says 1 second. Maybe bemet Rabbi Yosef. Bemet is not talking about a case of mimela from them coming out from their own, right? Meaning that only in a case where she already knows the master is going to free her, or she knows she's going to convert, or she's meaning like, oh yeah, that's going to convert. Or in those cases, yes, but not in the case that it just came out by herself. So he says, "Hare anusa mufute de mimela." What about anusa mufute? Which means a person that's violated or that she was seduced. She didn't know what was going to happen to her. Betanya, we learned. They have to wait 3 months. These words of Yudah. Rabbi Yosef Matil Yoris. Rabbi Yosef here itself also. In a case of a woman that was violated, or in a case that a woman was seduced, Rabbi Yosef says that she could get married immediately. That's a shita of Rabbi Yosef. So he says, right, you don't need to wait 3 months. So Rabbi says, Kasav Rabbi Yosef, the same thing. Isha mezana mitapechet kedei shelo titaber. There's 2 things. The first one is that a woman is putting a moch down below. So she's putting a contraceptive down below in order to make sure that she doesn't become pregnant. Kedei shelo titaber. Which means usually the moch was any type of a diaphragm or any type of a used to be clothing. It was cloth something down below in order to stop that the zera, that the semen should not penetrate, and therefore she cannot become pregnant. Okay, but right, he comes and he says, but isha mezana mitapechet. There's another concept. The other concept is that a woman that she's mezana, she's going to turn around. So therefore, the zera will not come inside of her, which means that if she doesn't want, let's say she doesn't have a moch. She doesn't have a diaphragm. She doesn't have one of these. So what does she do? She's going to right away, she's going to turn around. She's mitapechet after the bilah. And therefore, since she's mitapechet after the bilah, which means right afterwards, she comes and that's what it says over here. You don't need achana. She just turns over. And therefore, we're going to say that she's just going to turn over. And the fact that she turns over, that's already enough. So says the Gemara, right? Ve'idach. And the other one, the other opinion, which is Rabbi Yehuda that argues on Rabbi Yosef, no, we're going to suspect that maybe she didn't turn over properly, which means that even if she didn't turn over properly, right? Okay, they had the relations. Now she gets up, she turns over, but maybe Be'emet, everything didn't come out. So because maybe everything didn't come out, maybe Be'emet, right? She's going to become. It says in a pasuk. If you remember, we finished at the end of the Mishnah. Okay, we said at the end of the Mishnah right? Because now we just finished by answering Shema lo nefcha yafe yafe, and therefore he still says that we're going to still suspect that you need the 3 months, because maybe she's still going to become pregnant. We said at the end of the Mishnah that if right now he killed the woman, so then he doesn't have to pay. But if he didn't kill the woman, then he has to pay the woman for if he killed the woman when there were 2 men fighting, and then they punched out a woman and she was pregnant and she lost the children. So if they killed her, so therefore he does not have to pay for the children, for the fetus. But if he didn't kill her, then he has to pay for the fetus. He has to pay for the miscarriage. So it says the Gemara, here we're talking about over here. We already learned it from over there. Where? What are you telling me now that you're only learning it from here? That it's only only if there's no death penalty, so then he's gonna have to pay money. We already learned it from there, from which means you could only obligate a person for one action, one rishut, not 2. Meaning, a person does one action, you cannot come and give them 20 counts, right? 1 count of this, and another count of that, and another count of this, and another count of that. No. You could only obligate 1 count, 1 rishut. Why? It was only 1 action. 1 action, 1 rishut. You cannot do both. So answers the Gemara, one of the psukim is velo yanos, right? B'mita u'mamon. That's the one that's talking about death and money. So if there's death, you don't have to pay money. If there's no death, you have to pay money. And the other pasuk which says is malkut and money, meaning lashes and money. That if you get lashes, you don't pay, and if there's no lashes, you have to pay. And you need both psukim. Why? If it was only going to teach us to do with the concept of death and money, because at the end of the day, the chotez nerag. So since he's nerag and he already has the strongest possible punishment in the world, which is death, so that therefore obviously you're not going to give him money. What's money to death? Somebody's no, you have to kill him and take his money. Well, you just killed him. I mean, you're also going to take his money. But he says, but by malkut mamon, there's no ibud neshama. So Elmaleh would say, no, the baby memet, you also have to pay. And right, because it's not such a strict punishment, so you have to do both. If it only taught us malkut mamon, because it's not such a big isur. Aval mital mamon, but if it was going to be mital mamon, the chamur isur, that's such a strong isur. Elmaleh, I would say that it's not enough one punishment. You have to give them both. Meaning, it depends how you look at the same coin. If you're only going to tell me about malkut mamon, I'm going to say only by malkut mamon that you only get 1. But mital mamon, he did such a bad thing that he has to get killed. He needs 2 punishments. It's not just enough 1 punishment. So therefore, because the isur is so chamur. But the other way round is opposite. The mita is much more chamur, because there's ibud neshama. Right? You're already going to kill him. You're also going to kick a dead horse. Right? He's already dead. You're going to now tell him, now give me also the money to go pay the guy. Yeah, you're not going to do that. So that's why, because of the 2, you needed both cases. 1 second. What do you do with Rabbi? Rabbi Meir, if you remember, we kept on mentioning yesterday and the day before yesterday, we kept on mentioning, according to Rabbi Meir, loke u'meshalem, you get lashes and you pay. That means it's not just death. Yes, you're right. Death, it's only death and not paying. But here, you could get lashes and pay. So what are you going to say? Why do you need 2 psukim? So he says, chada b'mita u'mamon. One of them you need it for death and money, right? 37b. And one of them is mital malkut, not money, but rather death and lashes. So therefore, in the case of death and lashes, you're only going to get the death and not the lashes. Okay, that's what he's saying. Utzricha, we need both cases. What is the both cases exactly? Okay, he comes and he says both cases is going to be, right? He comes and he says like this. If it was only going to be written the death and the money, one of them is in the body, and one of them is in the money. So law of Dina, we don't do the 2 different punishments. But if it's going to be death and malkut, they're both in the body. So I would just say it's a long death. You start with lashes, or you do the death, and then you do the lashes, whichever one that you want. But it's a long death, so it's the same thing. You would do both of them. Now, if it's only going to teach you mital malkut, you don't do it. You don't do 2 things in the same body. But the money, mital mamon, that one of them is in the body, one of them is in the money. I would say that we do it. Why? Because one's in the body, you give him a monetary punishment and a body punishment. So tzricha, that's why we need 2 different psukim. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. It said in the Torah, "Velo tichu chofer lanefesh rotzeach." You're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to take a redemption for the murder, which means somebody that murders, you cannot come and take a chofer from him. Right, the redemption, and now he's going to come and he won't get killed. No. So why do we need this pasuk? At the end of the day, if we already learned that if there's no death, then he has to pay money. So therefore, we already know that there's no such thing as that he could pay money and get out of the death. He has to be killed. So says the Torah, right? You know what this means? That you cannot take money from him, and then he's going to exempt himself from death. Why? He cannot exempt himself from death no matter how much money he pays. Right? So why do I need the pasuk that you can't take kofer for him to run away for the ir miklat? So he says, the same thing. Don't take money from him and exempt him from galut. He killed accidentally, he has to go to galut. I don't care how much money he's going to come, and he's going to pay. Why do we need two different psukim? Why do we need two different psukim then? If you already tell me that you can't pay off, so what's the difference between galut, whether it's going to be for mitah? So he says, chad b'shogeg and chad mezid. One of them is by accident. Remember, galut is by accident. The chad b'mezid, one of them is on purpose. We need both of them. If it would only told you that you cannot take it on mezid, look how strict it is. Aval b'shogeg. Listen, it was by accident. So maybe you could say that he could pay it off. Elmaleh, I could say that you could actually pay it off and not go to galut. If it's only going to be only in the shogeg, there's no death here. I would say no. So that's why you need both cases. Next, the land is not going to be atoned for the blood which is spilled in it unless you're going to have the blood spilled. Lamali, why do I need this pasuk? Which is basically this pasuk is coming and telling you that you need the mitata rotzeach, and when you kill the rotzeach, when you kill the murder, that's when you're going to come and you're going to have the kapara, and that's going to exempt him from the tashlumin. So he needs it for that which we learned in the Braita. So imagine right now they did an egla rufa. Remember, egla rufa means that they didn't know who the murderer was. They did an egla rufa, which is the bedin. They come and they do the egla rufa, and all of a sudden they found the murderer. How do we know that we're not going to exempt him? Which means that the Torah is teaching you the kapalat egla rufa only helps as long as you didn't find the murderer. Once you found the murderer, Kaddish, you have to kill the murderer. There's nothing else what to do. Now he comes and he says, now you have to come and you have to get rid of the shofchei adam anakim kibecha. Why do we need this pasuk? He needs to tell you that which we learned in Braita. How do we know that the ones that they get killed with saif? Saif is the sword, ISIS. How do we know that it's from the tzavar? It's from the neck. Everything is the same as egla rufa. Where just like the egla rufa, they do it in the back of the neck, the nape. So too, shofchei damim mina tzavar. They come and they kill in the nape, they kill in the neck. That's what it is. So therefore, we learn from here, saif, which is headache, which is killing by the sword, is by the neck. He says, 1 second, but over there, how do you kill the egla rufa? You kill it with a kofitz. A kofitz is like a saw. It's like a big knife, and you kill it on the back of the neck, on the nape. So you're going to tell me also the same thing? You're going to kill it with a saw, and you're going to come and you're going to kill it. Kofitz is a sekin gadol, a garzen. So he comes and he says that it's going to be a mul order from the nape. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba, Baravua says of Nachman, the name of Ravua. Amar Kai says in the pasuk, what does it mean you have to love your friend? You have to choose for him a good death. The good death is you're going to a quick death. What's a quick death? It's going to be right by the sword, ISIS style. Instead of going from the back, right? And he comes and he says, right? Right? Haram. Don't speak about these things. Yeah. So why do we need this pasuk that it says that any cherem asher yochodam min adam lo yipadeh, you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to redeem? Why do I need this? Because then immediately afterwards it says we already learned it from lo tikhu choper lenefesh rotzeach. You're not allowed to take a kapara for a rotzeach. So it says the Gemara mibayle lechetanya. You need it for that which we learned in the Braita. Minayin yotze lehareg ve'amar echad erki alai minayin shalom laklum. Imagine right now a person is going out to be killed. He's going out to be killed. All of a sudden somebody comes and he says, you know what? Erko alai. I have to give his value to the Bet HaMikdash, right? I'm giving his value to the Bet HaKavai. How do we know that he didn't say anything? Why? Because he has no value. He's going out to be killed. So Shneimar says the pasuk, yeah, which means, right, there is nothing. But there's no value. He's going to be dead. So therefore, there's no value. So he says, what about before Gemardin? Before the verdict, right? I would think the same halacha. What does that mean? Only by Bnei Adam that they're already judged to be killed, that person has no value. But look, kol adam, but not everybody else. Which means that as long as there was no verdict, he still has a value. Once he has a verdict, there's no value. According to that you do come and you do evaluate him, he does have a set amount. What do you do with this pasuk of kol cherem? So he says, he needs it from that which we learned in the Braita. Rabbi Shmuel ben Yochai ben Roka Omer, Rabbi Shmuel ben son of Rabbi Yochai ben Roka says, Lefi shematzinu lamumatim bidei shamayim. Since we saw people that they are going to be killed bidei shamayim, shenotnim mamon umitkapel lahem, that they give money and they're going to be atoned. Shneimar said in the pasuk, kofin yushat alav, yachol bidei adam, af bidei adam. I would have thought to say that it's also going to be bidei adam, ken, which means the same halacha would apply to a human being. Tamulumar cherem min adam lo yipadeh. Somebody that's already chayav mitat betin, he cannot exempt himself lo yipadeh from mamon. But that's only a mitah chamura. You cannot come and you cannot atone for them, right? Which means over here he says, what does that mean? He comes and he says that all chayav mitah, but he says mitot chamurot shelo nitar shegatan lekapara, but mitot kalot shenitar shegatan lekapara minayin. How do we know if a person did something which is going to be b'shogeg, he would have had a kapara? How do you know the same halacha would apply? What does it mean when it says kol? It's coming to add on any type of a death. That even if a person sinned, right, and that sin would have done a shogeg, he would have had a kapara, he cannot pay it off now that he does it, and he does it b'mezid, and he's going to be punished for it. So says the Gemara, 1 second, but we wouldn't have learned that mimila, meaning we wouldn't have learned it from the pasuk lo tichu chofen, lo tishkol mamono minem tiftere, right? That means basically don't take any kofer, right? Even if it's going to be galut or anything else. So kol cherem lamani, why do you need the word kol? So Amar Rabbi Yechama says Rabbi Yechama, Itzich you also need it. Sal kadaita chamina, I would have thought to say, Hanamile, one of these words, Hecha deharago, only if he killed them derech aliyah upwards. Shelo nitna shigato lekapara, there's no kapara if he did it by accident. Aval harago derech yirida, but if he killed them downwards, then nitna shigato lekapara, there is a shogeg lekapara. I would say that you could actually take it and then you would be patur. Because even to do with the galut, there's a difference. We're going to learn that Bezrat Hashem. So because of that, that's what we're doing in Salacha. Have a wonderful day.